Hello, 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 and welcome to Survivor NSFW Rewind, Professor Tim Watches Australian Outback. I am, as always, your host, Karen Eisenberg. Before I bring in Professor Tim and our guest, let me just start by saying, of course, that today I'm wearing the Busted Can of Biscuits t-shirt, which you can find that one and many others at johnnyfairplay.com. And if you buy a t-shirt, you get a call from the great Johnny Fairplay. That's Jonny, no H. We already heard her laugh because, of course, I had to wear this t-shirt because I think this might be the first t-shirt that I gave the idea for Johnny. I told him he had to do it.
Yeah.
And we are being joined today. Well, first let's bring in Professor Tim. Tim, how are you doing over there?
Oh, I'm doing immensely well. I've been so well behaved, haven't I? I haven't.
Yes. He actually sat there until I brought him in.
It's the first time ever that I've been so well behaved. I'll tell you why. There's two reasons. So it's very ordered. Reason number one is that you asked me not to interrupt, and I'm very obedient. But reason number two, I'm sitting in my office, which is very unusual because normally I sit in the sitting room, and I thought I'd come in here because last weekend we had a leak. And that's not rude, by the way.
Not that kind of leak.
I know it has potential. But the boiler started dripping, and we were collecting buckets of water, and unfortunately, I went to my computer equipment, so it started to rain again, and I thought I ought to be here to monitor the boiler because my office is actually the utility room. So I'm surrounded by all the sort of the internal organs.
Yeah. I thought you might have moved also because was it last week that you, as the show went on, you just were enveloped into darkness?
Yeah,
right? Because the days are getting shorter.
But I am mindful of that, and I've got a little light up here, which is going to keep me illuminated. So it's terribly exciting. I'm so looking forward to talking to Elaine again. I'm going to be quiet because we have so many questions to ask Elaine.
Yeah, and starting by which, Elaine is now a married lady, so we want to say congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm off the market officially.
Nice. Now, how was the outhouse? Did it work?
Dude, it worked perfect. The only thing is I had put a sliding closet door over for the door, and by the end of the night people had gotten drunk and ripped it off its hinges. So people were literally picking the door up and setting, you know what I mean, like moving it instead of sliding it because they tore it off. But other than that, it worked perfect. Yeah,
I told Janet that I needed a review of the outhouse when she told me she was coming. Yeah, it looked like it was an amazing night. I saw lots of pictures.
Yeah, it was super fun. We got a lot of crap on Reddit and stuff because there wasn't a lot of people that wore masks. And the thing that people don't know is like people got tested before they came and they got tested when they went home.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
And so we got a lot of junk online for, not wearing masks, but it's like, if you don't know all the details, maybe you should just, keep your opinions to yourself. So
yeah, I'm not one of those people, and I am kind of all the way on one end in terms of how careful I am just because of my own personal medical history, but I don't feel like it's that helpful at this point. Everybody's got the information and people are going to make their own choices. It's fine.
Well, we had went to Nick Wilson's wedding, and Nick had done a thing where he had green, yellow, and red stickers, and it's like green you're okay with, so whatever, and red it's like keep away from me. And so we was going to do that. But honestly, Tanya had ordered the stickers and stuff and they never came. So we ended up buying glow sticks and used glow sticks. But I was talking to somebody the other day, and for the life of me, I can't even remember if anybody had them broken and was wearing them. So we try to do something like that to.
Well, you got everybody tested, and at a certain, you got to be careful. But again, like I said, I just.
Like my dad actually had COVID a few months ago.
Oh, wow.
And I told him, I was like, I need a couple negative tests before you roll into Kentucky, because I can't risk it. And so, like I said, there was a lot of people that got tested before they came. And then there was a ton of people that got tested when they went home. So I just wanted to put it out there because we've been getting a lot of heat online for no
Yeah.
mask at the wedding.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you did pretty much, what you need to do. And again, it's one of those things. Anybody, if you're traveling, just in general, everybody just go get a test. It's easy. They're generally free.
Well, and that's part of the reason why I built the bathroom instead of getting a porta john. It's because I wanted people to be able to wash their hands because I thought that was important. And so we did go above and beyond more so than what Reddit's putting out there. I just wanted to go ahead and put that.
No, I don't blame you at all.
When people get hold of a small idea, they tend to run with it. They run with a sentence. People don't read the whole paragraph, and it worries me when people don't read their stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. Like with my dad, he had COVID, so it's like he had like 3 tests, negative tests to make sure before he ever even left the state of Florida. So it's like there were precautions taken. And
there was one person, was it Jamal, who was wearing a mask in the pictures? Yeah, I thought that was cute too. But but it's nice he came and he just did what made him comfortable.
Me and Jamal had a conversation, and he's like, I'm super worried about COVID. I said, well, listen, feel free to wear a mask, take whatever precautions you need to, like. And I told him, we was doing the whole sticker thing, but it didn't pan out because they still haven't come. I don't know where in the hell those stickers are.
They might have been produced and marketed by the British track and trace system.
Oh, yeah. So we try to do the glow stick thing, where people can put like a green glow stick on or bracelets and stuff like that. But so we had that conversation. And I told him, I was like, whatever's comfortable for you. I don't want you to come and feel uncomfortable, but it was an outside wedding. You know what I mean? And like I said, there was a ton of people that got tested before and after. And as of now, everybody's negative. So it's like, but we was catching heat, and my friends had reached out to me. They're like, yo, it's on Reddit. And I was like, what? And it's like, they were talking about us not wearing masks and blah, blah. And I was like, but people got tested. Like, they don't even know that, And
that's just in general with social media in general. Like, people like to have opinions, and sometimes they don't know what they're talking about. And some people might even look at what you said and it wasn't enough. That's fine. It's allowed everybody's allowed to have an opinion, right?
Yeah, you can't make everybody happy.
I think if you're doing something which is firing public debate about this issue, then actually you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. But beyond that, I don't know anything about Reddit, so I'm now very curious.
Oh,
I'm not a big Redditor, but
I don't get on there much, but I got some friends that get on there religiously, and like when they see something, they holler at me. They're like, Elaine, you're on Reddit for whatever. So I'll get on there and check it out, from time to time. But I'm not a big Redditor either. Just my friends had told me that they were dogging us on the internet for the whole mask situation, and it kind of frustrated me because it's like, I wanted everybody to be safe. Like my godmother, who is not in great health, I made her keep away from everybody. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
wonderful. How was she?
She was good. She cried like a baby the whole time.
Yes, I would do the same thing.
The wedding was such a good time, and Dean officiated, and he did such an amazing job.
Yeah, that was so. Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine Dean.
Yeah,
Dean's a heck of a character, and like in like 10 years when we get to your season. But I'm sure he was great.
He did such a good job. We had one little hiccup. Tanya had rode up in a carriage, horse in a carriage.
How was it?
She looked beautiful. It was the driver of the carriage was a little timid, and then the guy that was leading the horse, he got a little tipsy. So, whenever after we got married and we got back in the carriage and everybody started clapping, the horse got spooked. And he reared straight up on his hind legs, son.
Oh my gosh!
Tanya was freaking out.
Was guy, she in the carriage at that moment?
Yeah, me and her both was in it, and I was like, "Oh, we got us a wild one." I wasn't scared because I've been.
No. You'll take control. I know.
Yeah, and Tanya was freaking out though. So the horse like reared up, took off like running, and knocked the guy down. Like the carriage almost flipped over.
And the carriage comes along after it.
Yeah, the carriage almost flipped over, and Tanya bailed. That's when she jumped out. She jumped out.
In the dress and everything else.
Yeah, she was freaked out. I was like, do you know how many times like I've had horses like buck me off or run in the barn or throw me down? You know what I mean? I wasn't scared at all. I was laughing, and Tanya was scared to death.
Well, the last time I was ever on a horse, because it's not like I was ever good at it, but I did ride as a kid. And then at one point we were on vacation and we were doing like a trail ride, and they gave me, so there was one horse that they knew was skittish. So they put that horse, I wasn't on that horse, but that horse was supposed to be bringing up the rear.
Mhm.
Okay. And I guess the girl behind me, she lost control. So that horse got spooked and it took off. And then my horse took off and all the horses took off. And I ended up getting bucked. And I didn't get seriously hurt, but I was like, yeah, I think I've had about enough of this horse thing.
You know, the one good thing is Tanya's one of the horses since we've been together. And she drove me crazy about getting a horse. And after that incident, she now wants a cow. She
doesn't want a horse now.
She wants cows.
No.
She wants cows.
Yeah, because you remember me saying, I said, like, inside of a month after your wedding, you're going to buy a horse.
Not no more.
Not no more.
Oh, and then when we went to Montana for our honeymoon, we went to a ranch in Montana. Montana's beautiful, by the way.
And there were horses in the ranch?
Yeah, so we went horseback riding, and we went like up 10,000 feet on the mountainside. So we had to come down. When we was coming down, it was super steep. And the horse that was in the very back got spooked, and he started running down the hill. And then the horse in front of him got spooked, and then Tanya's didn't get spooked. It got a little, but it freaked her out. It freaked her out. So she's like, I'm walking down, blah, blah, blah. I had to like talk her into staying on the horse and not walking down.
Oh, if I had been in that carriage and I had just bailed a few days before, I would have been like, I'm not getting back on one of those horses. I'm sorry.
That literally confirmed.
I think she's very brave to have got back on a horse.
Yeah, that literally confirmed that she does not want a horse. So that's a plus for me because I would be taking care of it.
What are you going to give her instead?
Nothing. I bought her a ring. I gave her.
Oh yeah. So tell us. Let's see the ring. You're a married lady. Are you wearing a ring?
Yeah. It's just a band. Can you see it?
Yeah.
I can. It's lovely.
Nice.
Yeah. I got it at Walmart.
This is the redneck wedding, right?
Yeah.
When the horse gets spooked.
Yeah.
And you buy the rings at Walmart.
Well, okay. So I'm not like big on big fancy rings or anything. Like Tanya's got a beautiful ring I bought her, and she was asking me, she's like, you got to get a band. What kind of? I was like, I don't care, And I was like, let's just go to Walmart and get something cheap because I'm sure I'm going to lose it. I'm going to tear it up. I'm going to, I work with my hands a lot. So we went to Walmart and I was like, yo, this one's great. $38. Let's get that.
When I got married, we just had one band which we sort of shared, and I can't remember who wore it, but then my partner went off to Turkey and came back with two matching bands, which were rather pricey. In fact, he'd taken the original and got it melted down and got it turned into something else with some white gold and bits and pieces, and it was very, very.
Well,
very
I've actually lost this one a couple times already, so it's a good thing. It's a good thing I got it at Walmart. Like
the worst place to lose a ring is down the loo.
Yeah, maybe you should have gotten a few, right?
Yeah. Well, I told her, I was like, I use my hands a lot. So whatever you get me is going to get scratched all to pieces, going to get scuffed up. And the first day I had it on, I was carrying cinder blocks. So it's like scratches all over it. So I'm glad I got a Walmart ring. I'm happy.
But you're looking so well.
I appreciate that.
It looks like married life agrees with you.
Yeah.
How is Tanya?
Tanya's great. She
she looked so beautiful. You two were so cute together. I mean, I love any couple where both of them are. You're both like my height, so it's pretty rare to see wedding photos where
you can go online. We have like a little minute wedding video.
Yeah, I saw that. They're
online.
so cute.
And I think like in a month or so it'll be like a 5, 6, 7, 8 minute video of the whole wedding. But he gave us a little preview, and it shows the guy falling down with the carriage and all kinds of stuff, and everybody dancing and partying and having a good time and stuff. But it was fantastic. We went on our honeymoon, and Tanya actually cried the morning that we were leaving. She was so sad that we had to leave because it was just so great. We've had such a fantastic time over the past week, and it's been super cool. Now it's back to reality.
And how are the animals? How are all the animals?
Listen, while we were in Montana, they escaped like every other day. So my neighbors, my neighbors kept coming up, having to put my dogs up because they've got 50,000 holes around the fence now. I'm gonna have to put some electric down or something, but they're all good. One's got a hurt foot. I don't know how he done that. I don't know if.
Probably trying to dig under the fence. That'll do it.
He's got a hurt leg. So, but other than that, they're okay. They're still here. So that's
good.
Yeah.
Good. They all wanted to go on honeymoon as well.
Yeah, I have a hog feeder that I put in their doghouse because I have so many. I just dumped 3 or 4, 3 bags in it and let them go. I just had to have somebody come up and water them. And then because they got out, I had to have somebody come up and put them up. But they're great. I let them out yesterday to run around for a bit, and they were so happy to be out and about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. So that's really exciting. So before we get into this episode, which we will in just a second, I just wanted to say two things. First of all, with the chat, I just want to let people know I'm very, very glad that you're here. Somebody just asked, like, is anybody reading the chat? Yeah, that would be me, along with everything else I'm trying to do. So I definitely see all of your comments, and occasionally I do pull one. Oh, you can't?
No, I
all
can't.
right. So we'll have to. I will have to try to.
Yeah, I'm on my phone because my computer situation.
So I'll have to try to figure out, Tim, how if we can set it up so that you can also see it
completely. So that I can
this
see.
is me. I need to figure out how to change the settings if that's possible. But anyway, I'm very glad that you're here. We see all your questions. At some point, I'm hoping to do like a special episode, maybe after the season, where it's just like ask Professor Tim all your questions. Right, because we keep getting all these questions and we can't really necessarily address them in the show, especially if they're not. Yeah,
he would talk for days.
I'm sorry. I feel humbled.
No, I enjoy it.
Yeah. And then the other thing, I always announce this also at the end of the show, but I am going to say it now because I'm sure once I start blah-blahing at the end, a lot of people might tune out. So we have not that Elaine is not a special guest, everybody's a special guest. But our guest next week is also the person who is going to be voted out, which is always fun. Again, which is always fun.
You're not going to
tell me who it is, are you? I'm not going to tell you who it is. But I will say that not only are they going to talk about their role in this season, they're going to talk about the other seasons that they played more recently. This is somebody who has really not been in the Survivor press much in the last few years because of an incident in a later season. And this person, my understanding is, wants to talk about everything. This might be the first time that they have really openly spoken about what happened. So that's cool. What's going to happen next week. Yeah. So we're going to break the internet. Hopefully.
I'm going to start speculating about.
I'm going to tune in.
It's 1 out of 10 people. You got a 10% chance of being right.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you who I think it's not going to be, unfortunately.
Yeah. So tell us. So what is your current view of the game? Who's doing well? Who's not doing well?
Well, I was very impressed by today's episode. Jeff has suddenly become a character.
Mm-hmm. Well, even before that, he's great in his snarky, confessionals.
Yeah, I hadn't picked up very much about Jeff. In fact, I was rather bored by the idea of Jeff. And today I'm rather warming to him. So I think he's gone into my little category of potential winneries, which at the moment only contains. Really, I'm only putting my my money on 2 people. Okay. I still think it's potentially going to be Colby, but I think it might also be Tina. I'm rather hoping it's not going to be Jerry because I'm taking such a sort of not a disliking to, but a sort of she irritates me.
Yeah, annoying.
And I could just go through the details to sort of get my back up. It just starts with the hair and it sort of goes on.
Now there's lots of things that Jerry does things that I won't defend, but what's wrong with her hair? Because that's kind of like what my hair looks like when I don't eat it down.
There's nothing intrinsically wrong with the hair, but it's all I can see.
Well, I think it's one of those things though. I think it's one of those things where somebody irks you just a little bit. You start nitpicking at everything.
Yes, you do. But nitpicking in somebody's hair is not a nice thought, really.
But you see, Tim, you are learning. This is what we call reading the edit. And in later seasons, they will try much harder to kind of hide who may or may not be winning. But in season 2, somebody who has been presented to us as just being a total pain in the ass. I'm not saying she really was nearly as bad as people thought she was. I mean, they hype her up as like the biggest Survivor villain ever, and I'm like, for
Jerry.
what? Yes.
No, she's not a villain. She's
they kind of call her the Black Widow, don't they? Like
yes,
really?
Yes. Yes. So
today she just never seemed to have a nice thing to say about anybody, and I just thought, has she not watched Bambi? You know, it's nice if you're not got anything nice to say, don't say nothing at all.
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine a little like 8-year-old Jerry and what she would have been like. Probably not too different from this one.
She would have been a little madam. She would have been telling everybody what to do.
Yeah.
But my point is but when they make somebody look that bad, again, like I said, back then especially, that person is probably not going to win.
Yeah.
Right? Because whoever that winner is, they want us to like them. Now
Right.
this will change.
If I were going to construct a story, I would want to see a nice arc where my winner would start off as somebody I dislike, and then I would turn my audience nicely around to be rooting for them by the end, like Romeo and Juliet. You that's only an interesting story because you start with two people who can't possibly get together, and in the end, they're killing each other for themselves. It's a sort of suicide. Anyway, it's suicide.
Well, I think in the beginning of the beginning seasons, they were just getting their feet wet and learning what they could and couldn't do. And
so, do you think they would take my view now?
I don't know.
They're going to take Karen's view. They're going to. Karen knows best. I know.
Well, like she said, later seasons they learn a lot, and you see it progress. It's crazy where I've seen every season, and I go back and rewatch the old ones. It's like, how did I ever get into this show? Because it seems so like a sea level. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I like to be nicely guided through a sort of miasma of diversions from point A to point C through point B, and I don't feel that I'm getting that. I feel that I'm being. I feel that I'm getting a barrage of propaganda and a little bit of misinformation, and
they get better.
Being pushed.
The seasons get. That's what we're saying. The seasons get better. They start to really learn their craft, and figure out.
All they had to do was talk to a decent screenwriter, and the screenwriter would say, because, I know, from my own experience in reality TV. Things are not scripted in that conventional sense. You're not told this is what you say, but you are given a limited range of options. You may not know it at the time, but my example is like the magician who offers you, pick a card, any card. You will only choose one because only one is a possibility, and you will choose that card and sort of think, oh, how wonderful! I've done something, and you will try hiding it and bluffing and whatever. You will always return the card because that's the card you were supposed to have. And I think that's what happens in reality TV. And it's very, very unusual that you sort of defeat the house. You don't win against the house. It's house rules.
Yeah.
Although it was interesting in Borneo, I think, because like I said, I think Tim came around to the feeling, and I've always had that I thought Hatch was a great winner. But I do wonder when they were editing that first season was that, and maybe they did do a bit like, Tim, what you're saying, because they did make Hatch look kind of like a blowhard a few times, especially at the beginning, right? And then they kind of brought us along, like I said, at least for you and I, came to this feeling of, oh, this is a great winner. I will tell you that at the time, right, that is not what, I mean, maybe the super fans felt that way, but the rest of America was pretty damn upset when Hatch won.
You see, if I were editing this, show, I would be now assuming that I already know that Jerry is going to win, in which case the curve we're going on would suit me fine. And there'll be something wonderful that will reveal Jerry to be a simply gorgeous, caring, delightful individual. And I was saying, win. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think instead what's happened is the two slightly boring people who didn't really occupy my interest for about 3 episodes. That's Colby and Tina are going to take over. I think there is no choice, and so we've gone from dull and boring to winner, and I don't think that in itself is going to make. I don't think it's the best way to structure a program, And the point is, all of these programs were filmed and then edited well after they knew who the winner was. So can't they actually structure their material so they give me suspense, enthusiasm, contrasting emotions? No, they just want me to be voyeuristic, to have some sort of prurient. So, you know, the whole show today started off with a discussion about chocolate.
Yes. Well, let's go there, because
It's prurient. It's making the most innocuous things take on a meaning that is simply lascivious. And I know that's the sort of dynamic, but my preferred dynamic would be to invest in the characters. And at the moment, I don't see character. All I see is cipher and chocolate. And
let me push back a little bit on that,
because, by the way, because I love chocolate.
Right. Well, but you're saying it's lascivious. I mean, but do you then disagree with my and Colby's and probably Elaine, everybody else? I mean, I don't want to speak for you, Elaine, but like I said, you seem to be, you're saying, oh, that, you know, they're making this parallel between chocolate. And do you really not think that this is just something that was kind of made up and edited?
No.
Because I think this is exactly what was going on.
I know it's true. I know it's true, but I think what I would like to see, what I would like to see is the development of character, rather than falling into these sort of predictable trays of discussing chocolate.
This is predictable that there are these two, you know, young women screaming about how badly they need chocolate. I think this is the character, especially Jerry, right? And, you know, and Colby says that, you know, Colby gets that. He says, you know, I'm part of that whole fantasy she's having. Right?
I enjoyed that
character development, right?
I enjoyed that suddenly from that point, from today's episode. My investment in Colby has intensified, because I just thought, you know, he's not only sort of eye candy, he's also extraordinarily quick.
He's not a Hershey bar.
Yeah, maybe a lot of things might
be a great line.
Yeah, I think Johnny has to put that on a T-shirt, and I should just kind of throw it over to the viewers right now, because I've thought about this. If we were to make any T-shirts, you know, for these seasons, right? Because we tend to make T-shirts for, you know, the stuff that's new on, you know, live on TV. But if anybody would, you know, wear a T-shirt, something like, you know, I ain't no Hershey bar or whatever, you know, let me know on Twitter, because I think that'd be great.
Do you remember in the 1980s, there was a wonderful Hershey bar advert which used a sequence from Gene Kelly's American in Paris. And Gene Kelly was dancing to the Hershey bar. Do you remember that?
I don't remember seeing that. But how are you seeing Hershey bar adverts? Because you're in the UK, right? You have Cadbury. You don't even have Hershey there.
No, we don't have Hershey, but I'm curious, and you lure chocolate in front of me, and I'm after it. I'm a chocolate donkey. With a chocolate bar on the end. I would neigh and go running for as long as I have to.
Yeah.
You know, no, nothing in the chocolate, please. No, I don't like nuts and stuff. I just like my pure fix.
That's me. Give me just a plain Hershey bar.
Oh, Elaine, let's team up together. I can't wait. I can't wait for my trip over to you.
And I'm totally with Jerry on this. That I would absolutely have no problem with the combination of Hershey's chocolate and Colby. She does. I totally agree with her on that. I don't think I would be that vocal about it with him 10 feet away. But she's not wrong.
I don't understand. She had one part of that combination within reach.
Yeah.
Why
the thing with Colby's a gentleman though, so that super aggressive, super confident, aggressive woman, like he's just completely turned off by. So here she is, thinks she's making some progress and getting some leeway, and actually it's doing just the opposite. You know, it's
well, yes, I'm inclined to agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's her idea of flirtation, you know, you don't flirt with a piece of chocolate.
Yeah, you know that Man-Eater song, right? I think they wrote that. I think they wrote that for Jerry Manthey. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think when it comes to chocolate, you just put it in your mouth. You don't discuss it.
Oh, that was great.
So then we go over to Kucha, and Kucha is eating the chicken feed, right? They're kind of going through it, and they're warming it up.
Poor chicken.
You know what the thing is? If it was Ogakor, right, and they didn't have any food, I wouldn't have a
they've got
problem
so
with.
much, and they're eating somebody else's food now.
Right. Well, that's they got chicken feed because they have chickens, right? We know they also had pork. They
I
got
was going to
eggs.
ask you last week what do they feed the chickens, and I didn't ask you, and now we know it's now become part of the plot. And
But
I just think these people, they don't deserve to win. First of all, I don't like them.
Well, it's greedy. It's greedy.
I particularly dislike that greediness. You know, they've got a pig. They're going through their chickens as if there's no tomorrow, and now they're eating the chicken food as if the chickens aren't going to survive. They're not at that rate.
Right. If you don't feed the chickens, they stop laying eggs, and then you end up with skinny chickens.
In animal husbandry, you get up, you feed your animals, then you might have breakfast if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Your first obligation is to the animals who are in your care.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm thinking though is if they really were going to eat a chicken like every other day, you know, they might figure that they're not going to need enough chicken feed for the end of the.
I'm sure that's exactly the discussion that went ahead. It's really quite nasty. There's a sort of gallows mentality in that tribe that I don't warm to, and I don't know where it comes from because I don't think I didn't see it to start with. So it's something that sort of percolated up from one character, maybe from Michael.
I don't care for the cockiness and the boasting. I don't like that myself.
No.
Yeah,
it always
there's a nastiness there.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Eating the animal food just because you want variety is not nice. The only time that became attractive was when Nick, who I do warm to it, I always warm to Nick, when Nick said that they were eating it morning, noon, and night, and I thought that was it was sweet and indulgent, and rather he'd sort of subverted the greediness.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because you know they were talking trash about the other tribe. They don't want them to eat. You know what I mean? Like they don't want them to have anything. They just want to. And I get that it's a game, but at the same time, it's like I'm way more compassionate than that. I always feel bad for the other people, and things like that. So I don't agree with that kind of attitude.
I knew there was going to be a crisis this week, and I hadn't quite worked out what the crisis was going to be.
Yeah, and that's partly my fault because I realized we were so excited to have Kimmy on last week that we didn't really talk about the next time on. Kimmy was amazing, but we didn't really talk about that next time on, preview, because basically what we saw is we saw a crocodile, right, and then we heard a scream.
Yeah.
And so the Survivor fandom kind of went crazy in that intervening week, and there were a lot of people who thought that Scoopin was going to get eaten by a crocodile.
Yeah, it's kind of like on my season when it showed me and Missy fighting, and they made it look like one of us was going to get kicked off the show or something. When actually,
you were just hustling, right? You were just wrestling. It wasn't even a fight. Yeah.
I slightly disapprove of this type of edit, and can I tell you a little circle story about this?
Please.
It's quite pertinent. Now, the circle is produced by a company called Studio Lambert. And Stephen Lambert, who runs it, was a producer, I think, or junior producer on a show which was making a documentary about the Queen. And for the trailer of this documentary, they showed the Queen getting into a huff and walking down a corridor with her crown on and sort of storming off. She was supposed to be having a photographic session with an American photographer, and the impression was that the Queen was angry because she'd been told to take off her crown. And she does say something in the premiere. Hey, it's so difficult to put on. The Queen. If you do the Queen, the mouth doesn't move at all.
Yeah,
right.
And the vowels become quite strange. So we would normally say mouth. The Queen would say mouth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a very strange song. Very, very, very strange, and a very, very small little voice, but quite powerful. I'm sure she has a bark if she wants to.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, this was called Crown Gate, and it turned out that all the program had done was to take the footage and re-edit it so it looked as if the Queen was storming off in a huff. In fact, that scene of her wearing a crown walking down the corridor was filmed before she got to the photographer's meeting.
Yeah.
She wasn't storming off in a huff at all, but it gave a particular impression. Now, Stephen Lambert resigned from the company after this. He may have been thrown out. He may have been taking the fall as well. And And one of our national newspapers, I think called The Guardian, wrote an article saying that he was going to set up a sort of ethically based production company in response to the unethical re-editing out of sequence of this event.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Now, whether or not he did that is for other people to judge, because I know there are people who worry that there are scenes which are edited out of sequence. I think there are scenes edited out of sequence about me, but in my case, I think they did me a favor. In some cases, I think maybe, you know, they make people look more malicious than they should do because they've modified the events. But you know, if you're making a film, it makes sense that you don't necessarily edit in order.
Right.
You edit to tell the story,
Right.
and to make the story and the characters clearer. But I think there's a lot to be said for ethical editing, and I think the crocodile because I looked at that final thing. The crocodile with Michael is just misleading.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I were watching that in real time, which I pretty well was, I was panicking a little, but unfortunately, you see, I've been given the impression that Michael isn't a very nice person. Now I understand he's not, but if I didn't know that, and I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't been told, then I would have been panicking until I watched the next episode.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And again, it's this, and all these things with Scoopin' happen much, much later. Right.
Yeah,
but
I think that's unfair. And I know we've got to get into into lots of questions about what was and what was not shown about him.
Yep.
And I think again, hindsight is colouring our judgment, and so that's really where I stand. So I want to take a position that as far as I'm concerned with this program, that I know nothing about his.
Right, and I completely agree with you. Like I said, I made an exception for this
because there are issues about editing and about production which come up even despite our knowing about his subsequent career, and and there are issues about it which come up if we didn't know about the subsequent career. You know,
right?
There are issues on both sides.
Right.
It focuses the idea that the producer is so powerful in controlling the information that is given to the viewer.
Right. Well, and that's always
true.
the case. That is always
that's true.
And like you said, in terms of, for me, like editing out of sequence, it's extremely common. And again, I feel like most of the time, like Elaine, you also said it happened on your season, right? But not in ways that really change. Like you can really take things out of sequence to the extent that what they're showing us really has very little relationship to what actually happened. That's not okay. But if you had this conversation and you had this one and they feel like it flows better if they flip them around, that doesn't bother me all that much. What do you think, Elaine?
And when it changes what really happened, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, or it affects drastically what's going to happen.
Or it affects perception.
Yeah. Then it's, I think it's it goes into that gray area of like unethical to me.
Yep.
But
because these are real people. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, I totally understand that they're trying to make a TV show. You know what I mean? And they want it to be interesting. They want it to be compelling and have people tune in. So I get it. You know what I mean? Like I totally get it. It's a fine line though, really.
Oh yeah, no, and it's very easy. It's very easy to cross.
Yeah.
There's a sort of cult TV, children's TV series called Doctor Who in the UK.
My brother watches that religiously. He loves.
Oh, your brother and I are going to have to swap notes.
Yeah, he loves that show.
But it's wonderful, and I watched it when I was a child, and I loved it. And I remember there was one particular, and they were quite brief little episodes, and they always ended on a major cliffhanger. And then the next episode, you'd wait a week for the next episode, and it'd be very exciting. And it was Saturday evening, so that was even more exciting. So we had to go off and run around a rugby field, which is not my thing. And then we get back and find out what had happened to Joe Grant and the doctor. And I remember on one particular occasion, Joe fell down a lift shaft, and the camera angle was such that there was no way she could have survived.
Oh yeah.
She was falling, and it was like that scene in just before the interval of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, where the car goes over the cliff. There is no way they can survive that drop. It's quite quick, but but it would have been fairly fatal. And then you come back after the intermission, and you see this sort of transformation. Where in the case of Joe Grant, in the case of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, the car sprouts wings. Spoiler, of course. Sorry. As they don't sing the song at that moment, but the next song is Posh, which is my favorite song. And
wait, they don't play the song when the car sprouts wings.
No.
This is another one of these false memories then from my childhood, because I love that. I love that movie, and I could have sworn that they were playing that song.
No, there's a lot of no. There's no. They don't sing the song at that moment, which is fine. But the first song in the second half is the grandfather opening his loo door and saying, "This is living, this is style, this is elegance by the mile. Oh, the posh travelling life." And there's a really difficult line: first cabin and captain's table, regal company. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is.
Oh, you have to watch it. I'll give you a whole reading list and a watching list, and you can watch the things.
Send it to me. I love binge watching stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in like 40 years. And again, it sounds like it's the same thing with me remembering Hatch saying, what's funnier than a fat naked gay guy, a fat naked gay guy with $1 million, except he never said it.
I have to point out there are no fat naked gay guys in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, but time will tell. Who knows with technology? But no. With Doctor Who, when we came back to the next episode after I had a week of anxiety, the camera angle had changed, and Joe just quite nicely caught a piece of stair rail on the way down and survived. I thought, well, that's really that's not an exciting cliffhanger. That's a cop out, and I find some camera angle things disturbing. I can't remember why I'm telling you that.
Well, it goes back to how the edit is what we were talking about.
It's all about the edit, but the edit can do anything. And for example, today in these COVID times, you can edit something in such a way that you make people look much closer than they really are.
Right.
True.
And with a bit of perspex, you can actually make people appear to be kissing each other.
True.
Right.
In socially distanced manner. I wouldn't mind having a bit of a snog with a piece of perspex. If that's what it takes.
Yeah.
So before we get to, kind of the big issues about, Scoop and should they have filmed it, should they have shown it, all that, because I want to talk about that. But first, let's just go through the rest of the episode such as it is. Jerry makes fried green tomatoes out of these little cherry tomatoes she finds. And
Am I allowed to talk about this?
Yes, you're allowed to talk about that. Go ahead.
I just found this so detestable. This whole tomato palaver. I'm sorry. You say tomato. I say tomato.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so wait, but you're in the sense
I say mater.
Maters, is that what they call them? I've heard taters. I've never heard maters.
Yeah, it's taters and maters.
Oh, okay.
Taters and maters. Yeah.
I guess in New Jersey, I grew up with taters, but not maters.
Yeah, it's maters. It's redneck thing.
All right. Good to know.
Maters, or martyrs, I would say. Martyrs, bang. Ooh, you're dead.
Yeah. And then we see Colby again. Not surprisingly, we see him again saying that she's rude, and Keith and Jerry just fight constantly. And Tina says the one has to go. And again, I'm assuming this does happen sometimes on Survivor, where on the one hand, your game says that you should keep this person around, but you just don't want to be in that.
Yeah, that was my season. That was my season. I should have kept Missy because it would have gave somebody else to be a target. I would have still had a little bit of numbers, but I just couldn't work with her no more. I didn't like how she treated people. I didn't like the things that she done, and I just couldn't stomach it, And so I still stand by voting her out. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, there is part of me that's like, well, maybe I should have, but I just couldn't do it.
You just couldn't do it
There
anymore.
comes a point, Elaine, where you just want to get rid of the bad apples.
Yeah, and that's what it was. It's like the over aggressive, the negative. I just couldn't. I'm not that way, so it's like, yo, I can't be around this no more. So I totally understand.
Do you not think that the production company is looking for negative aggression?
No, and they are. They have these archetypes that they want. You know what I mean? And they.
Yeah.
I don't want to say they cast for those particular spots, because I do believe that when they come across people that are just, they can check all the boxes, I do believe that they kind of just fill them in. But at the same time, I do think that they kind of try to get a little bit of hate, a little bit of love, a little bit of, you know what I mean?
You were the love and Missy was the hate, and that's why you had to be on the same tribe.
Yeah, I think they cast people that's gonna butt heads. I think they cast people that's gonna, have conflict. You can't just put a bunch of great people on the TV show and it be like just plain Jane and you know what I mean? Like, you can't do that.
Right.
So it's like, I get why they do it.
But you can have conflict, but there can also be sort of deep friendship and sort of positivity as well. I mean, in a show like Survivor, I would have thought the real crunch is if you form a great and sort of a deep friendship in the show, there's going to come a point where you're going to have to turn on each other and vote one of you off. Well, and it's either going to be a Spartacus moment, where somebody self-sacrifices, which I think would be interesting. Does that ever happen on Survivor?
You kind of tried to, it seems like, but it's not. I mean, it happens, but it doesn't happen that often. I mean, it is a game for $1 million or $500,000.
Well, that's like
I don't think that's important.
Well, on my season with me and Lauren were super close. And when I talked to Lauren, I try to talk to her as a friend, and I was completely honest with her 100%. The problem is she didn't fully trust me. I had complete trust in her. Right. And I was completely vulnerable, totally upfront, which that's how I am. Right. And, but she struggled with it a lot, voting me out. Right. And part of the reason is because of our friendship. And she bawled like a baby, and I was comforting her when I left.
I know.
You know what I mean? Because she was so upset. But we are still great friends. And you do have those relationships and those bonds that are built. I don't know if they emphasize it like they should, as much as they should, like they do the conflict. They really.
I think they enjoy that, though. I mean, you kind of need all of it, right?
Yeah, I think they push the conflict more, like put that out there more than the love you have for somebody.
I'm entirely with you. I think that's really their guiding philosophy, and I think they're wrong. I think
that's the society we live in. You know what I mean? Like,
and especially, and the difference, it's funny you say that, Elaine, because the difference between TV in 2020 and TV in 2001 is it's like it's not the same. You always need, I would argue, and Tim, you're more of a storyteller than I am, but you need some kind of conflict to move a story. But there's different kinds of conflict.
But then you also need to invest in the characters who are within your story, and that requires two feet. Number one, vulnerability, and number two, a sort of positive interaction. Now, those two things, because of the nature of Survivor, then they're not at the top of the agenda, because people are constantly suspicious and they're constantly, as you say, looking for this $1 million. Yeah, and I think the $1 million is overstated, because I think it's only going to be one person who's going to get it, and that may be a poison chalice. There's a fellow called Steve Brockstein who won a program called The X Factor. He was the first person to win The X Factor, and he won his £1 million, £1 million contract, and within 6 months, he'd signed a document which meant that was turned into a £12,500 payoff. So he not only didn't get the £1 million, he walked away with nothing, as did the other person, as did the competitor, really.
Why?
How did that happen?
Yeah,
because of the fallout of the nature of some of this reality TV business. And it's he's written a very interesting autobiography. I've been reading it on the loo. I think it is probably the place to be reading it. You know, if you go through a chapter and you may have run out of loo paper. No, you haven't. You've got Steve Brockstein's autobiography next to you. Well, not so much of it now. But no, it's surprisingly well written, or maybe ghost written. I don't know, but it's not bad. It's not bad, but he highlights something disturbing, that the game continues after the cameras stop.
Yeah,
right.
And that, I think, is worrying. But why are we surprised? Because you're giving a production company power over your personality.
True.
Right.
And that personality is being projected to the audience through the production company's choices, and that doesn't stop. Once you cede power over your personality to a larger company, I don't know where you press a button and say, right, the end has come. I now take my personality back. You can't. Your personality is no longer yours.
Yeah.
Right.
It's gone.
Yeah. Well, I think with regards to the reality TV thing, I think me and you both are extremely lucky in our portrayal to the public.
Mhm.
We were very, very fortunate.
Yeah, and I'm completely, totally blessed for the edit that I got. I completely appreciate, you know what I mean? So I feel bad for those people that don't get that kind of
Oh God,
Right.
do I feel bad for that? Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So Elaine, was there any footage? Obviously, you know, you were kind of their angel that season, which is great. They always need one, and that was you. But was anything left on the cutting room floor of you just going around camera? I can't stand Missy. I want to get rid of Missy.
I think there was a lot of I didn't have as much trust in my original Alliance and Lyro as they made it seem. You know, I didn't like how aggressive they were. I didn't how over dominating. I didn't like it. And so I was constantly like, I want to get out of this alliance. I don't like these people, you know, and I don't trust them, you know,
Right.
And they left a lot of that out. But
Yeah.
I think at the same time, even though I said those things, I stuck with them because I am a loyal person.
Yeah.
And so I understand why they left that stuff out.
But also they would want clarity, wouldn't they, in that storytelling? So if you've given your word to a group of people and you've got an alliance, the clarity is that you keep that, and exactly that they would be able to read that your sense of loyalty is greater than your niggles.
Exactly. But I don't necessarily think there was too much left. I know there was some people from my season that was really upset with their edits and didn't agree with how they were portrayed, and you know, and we had some super serious issues on my season.
Really?
Yeah.
Tim, you're gonna have to watch it.
I do know.
He might give up on that one in the middle. It was a rough season.
Yeah.
Thank God we had a few bright spots like Elaine, because the rest of the season was kind of a shit show. Sorry.
Yeah, it was. You know, you wait your whole life to be on a show. Like I've watched since the beginning, and then you get on it, and it's like, yo, why did you put me on this one? Like, oh. But at the same time, like you got to take the good with the bad, and like
absolutely.
I totally embrace that philosophy in my life. I take the good with the bad, and it's like there's something you can learn from every situation you're in, and I learned a lot from that season.
Elaine, I keep coming across people who've been on reality TV shows, and I hear these horror stories.
Yeah.
And yet at the back of my mind is a feeling that actually it serves a good purpose, and it gives the public an opportunity to be invested in a wonderful form of entertainment, which is conducted by major professionals. I mean, the people who are producing and the camera people. I keep in touch with one of the camera people on my show, and I remember I always knew when he was on my cameras. All our cameras were remotely operated, but my cameras moved differently when he was doing it. And I always noticed it, and I said, "Oh, is this Dan?" And my camera would nod.
They can have fun, because like on Big Brother, you know, this year they're clearly somebody is having all kinds of fun. One of the camera people in the Big Brother house, because I don't know if you're watching, Elaine, but like with Danny, for about 30 seconds one day they were just like zooming in on her face, and she was like looking really angry, and then they would zoom out, and then they would zoom in again on her, you know, just for that edit, and then they use that shot later in the show. I mean, in a much abbreviated form when
Yeah.
they showed something and it was supposed to be her reaction to it. And who knows if it was, it probably wasn't. You know, but that kind of level of small level misleading doesn't bother
It's
me all that
amazing
much.
with the cameras. You feel the cameras are your friends. And I looked upon the cameras rather like I looked upon my goats.
Yeah.
I looked upon the unseen cast that you know, the other contestants. I looked upon them rather like little goats. So in fact, I had an entire tribe of goats, which I was used to, you know, from my farm.
Yeah.
And these were goats that didn't shit and didn't need feed. You know, they were delightful goats. You know, our goat excrement is quite a problem because it sort of turns up everywhere, and it looks very much. It looks.
How did we end up here? Is what I want to know. How
We
did
always-
we end up?
This isn't
we
even the
always-
first time that
No.
Tim has talked about hurting goats. Well, this might be the first time we've heard about his opinions on goat shit.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. We literally go from like, you know, the edit and this, that, and the other to talking about goat shit. It's
Well, that's
Okay.
what
And
that's
now,
what I've
have
learned
you
with
ever
this
tried-
show. I've just kind of learned to try to take, like I said, except for the beginning and the end, I just try to follow Tim wherever he goes. Because
Have you ever tried
be
milking a goat, Elaine?
No.
I actually have.
No,
I
my-
actually have.
Come on, tell us, Karen. How did you manage it?
Yes, I mean, I go
Really?
to these like fairs and like little petting zoos and
So,
stuff when
so
my
did
kids
you-
were small.
So did you put the goat up on a sort of trestle or something?
They were already like on like a little, not a table exactly, but like, and then you could sit on a stool and kind of be at the right level.
Then you had sort of you had fancy goat milking.
Because this is not designed for people who actually know what they're doing. This is
I was on a mountainside, and I know how to milk a cow. I'm very comfortable with milking cows. I was taught how to do this when I was a child, and when I was very little, I was about 5 years old, how to haul hay around, huge hay barrels which were bigger than me, hay
Bales.
bales. And I had to sort of cut down pitchforks. And I presume from behind it would just look like this thing was moving on its own, because I did manage to haul around quite big bales of hay. I was determined, if not very big, and I learned how to milk a cow as well. And when it came to goats, I just thought this is sort of very difficult because they move away.
Oh, is that? I was like, what's the difference? Oh, goats don't like to, because usually animals like to be milked, right? Because it's kind of a relief for them.
When you get into it, the cow and the goat are much the same, and they lean into you as you're doing it. But the problem is getting down to it. So when you're on a mountainside, and what I'd been shown was you pull the udder between the back legs rather than try and approach it from the side.
Okay.
And I thought, well, that sort of works, and it did sort of work in a way for me. However, what happens is then, as the animal relaxes, sort of everything relaxes. So when you're
I
looking
knew you was going there. I knew that's where it was going. I knew it. I
out
knew where
goes
he
the
was
tail,
going.
and out comes all the stuff. And the same thing happens with the goat. Now, if you're sitting in the way of all that, you can't position your milk bucket far enough away from the goat to keep control.
Right.
And close enough to you know, somehow all this stuff ends up in the bucket of milk. So I asked one of my Greek goat herder friends. I said, "What do you do when this happens?" And he said, "Oh, and demonstrated.
No.
And I thought I'm never going to drink goat's milk again. And
No.
Yeah, fortunately, I don't like goat milk or goat cheese, but if there was any chance I was ever going to try it.
I'm not saying this is how it's done, except on strange mountains in the middle of the southern part of Greece, in the middle of but certainly up in the Taygetos Mountains, that is certainly how it was done by the goat herders that I knew, and we were a little band really, and they taught me some very, very foul Greek.
Now, let me just take a step back here. How did you end up in Greece as a goat herder?
Oh, I went to teach English. I went to teach.
Okay.
I went to teach an English family, and they all went back home because there were medical problems, and I was left sort of stranded. And I not only ended up that, I ended up getting sort of arrested for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I had to get rescued on many occasions. I had quite an adventurous period over a space of 2 or 3 months, and in fact, I ended up standing on the footsteps. There were footsteps in Sarajevo, where princeps fired the gun in the chest of the Archduke and his wife, who was pregnant, and started the First World War. I stood in those footsteps when all this was, I presume, still Tito's Yugoslavia. And it was. I think it was quite clever of me to have been there. But it did come at quite a price. I was being stopped sort of every 5 minutes and taken to police stations and grilled and in languages I didn't understand. It's a bit intimidating, but it does prepare yourself for television.
I guess if you could survive being interrogated in a language that you really don't speak, then then just living alone in an apartment for 3 weeks is
it's child's play. It's child's play. Yeah, absolutely.
But did you find, again, because so you were in a very small way, prepared for what happened then with lockdown, because you were in that apartment. Now you did get to see someone once a day. Right. So you did not really go 3 weeks without seeing a human face. But generally, the way that you're describing about kind of, making friends with the camera, it's kind of exactly what you would expect if someone was kind of deprived of human contact.
I think it wasn't the circle as much as being a monk that prepared me for lockdown. And just, it's not so much the idea of isolation. I certainly had isolation in lockdown, certainly for the first 6 weeks, I think, because my partner was in
your
Dubai.
Partner wasn't there. That's why I was asking. Yeah.
So I was in total isolation, and I didn't feel that I should go out. I didn't find it. I didn't find it particularly taxing. In fact, I found it quite comforting, in a strange way. I know a lot of people didn't have that experience,
Right.
but I find it very easy to surrender to somebody else's rules. And I think that's partly having been at quite aggressive boarding schools, and then being a monk. I think it's a bit like if you've been in the army. I think you would think, okay, someone else is now taking control. I don't need to. And that much I found easy. But I found the period since then quite stressful. Maybe for other reasons, but I do understand why people have found it tough.
Yeah.
And the thought that one doesn't quite know when it's going to end. And I'm a person who is dominated by the theatre, and to think, I can't imagine how I could ever sort of run off into the West End and take over, the part of Mr. Banks in Mary Poppins or something. How could I ever do that if I don't know where the theatre is going to continue?
Yeah.
And I always think of film and television as the poor man's theatre.
Right.
I start with theatre. And then I slowly degrade. Though I must say, I start all my days with the radio, and I probably would have called it the wireless, but that's it doesn't make any sense. And I think there are just times when I just think, why haven't I embraced a career on the radio? Because I wouldn't need to get out.
Because your show would never end. It would just go on and on and
on. You're quite right. You're quite right.
And when you've had enough, you just kind of tune out.
Listen. I love listening.
Yeah, I think you'd switch off or it would break down.
I would just listen to Tim read, the phone book, because I know he would be like at the third name, like, oh, this reminds me of the time that I was, hunting in Tanzania, and right.
Don't you think some people have the most amazing names?
I'm not one of them, but yeah, I agree.
Your name is wonderful, Stott. Have you changed your name?
No, I didn't change mine. Tanya changed hers.
Has she really?
Yeah, she took my last name.
Oh, so she is now Tanya Stott.
Yeah, right? Tanya Stott. Yeah.
Stott. It's not Stott, it's Stott.
Stott. Yeah.
So where did this name come from?
I'm not exactly sure. I think it's over there by you somewhere.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
And the way you were pronouncing it, Tim, like I said, it might be originally like German or Austrian. Yes, it might have been more of a Stott, and now it's turned into what?
My temptation was to move it into sort of Middle Europe, and but
yeah,
you might be right.
My grandpa, he was Scottish. I think he had a little Irish
It sounds more Irish than Scottish. I
yeah,
think.
and then
That makes sense.
something else, but I can't remember. But yeah, I think we're from over there.
I
I actually have
you
a
could come
guy.
over again.
Well, I have a guy that does some historian stuff, like
Yeah.
your family tree, and he sends me stuff. And he actually sent me where I'm from, but at the moment I can't remember it.
Oh
Like
no, you have to find out. We have to have
where my grandparents were from. It's
Right.
from over there because me and Tom Laidlaw lived within like a short distance of each other over there, somewhere in Europe. Is all I know.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, which we found super hilarious because I do the podcast with Tom every Thursday,
Yeah.
and so this guy's been like sending us our family tree stuff.
Yeah.
And I was talking about how we must have been friends in a past life or something. We'll come to find out our families lived super close to each other, and actually traveled over basically the same ways, and then ended up in the U.S. close to each other again. And so I tell Big Tom, I'm like, yo, we were just destined to be friends. That's all that is to it,
Yeah.
you know?
So I don't know. So you guys are still doing a podcast? Go ahead and
Yeah.
plug that, because I didn't know it was an ongoing thing. I knew you did it.
Yeah,
What
well,
do you discuss in your podcast?
I just bust his chops and he busts mine, like we give each other a hard time. We don't talk about anything.
You never give anybody a hard time.
Yeah. We don't talk about anything in particular, whatever kind of floats the boat. He didn't come to the wedding, so come this Thursday, there's going to be a lot of I hate you, Tom. You're like, because you didn't come to my wedding,
especially if he's local. Yeah.
Well, he's from Connecticut.
Oh,
but
okay.
I was saying his people and my people
Those
came over.
ended up in the same area.
and the same area and stuff. And so we do a podcast every Thursday. He does a lot of podcasts. He does like one like every day with.
And is he a Survivor person as well?
Yeah, somebody who was on her season also.
He was on my season. His name's Tom Laidlaw. He played for the New York Rangers back in the Stone Age. He's an old feller. And me and him just hit it off on the show.
Yeah, he's an old feller like me and Tim are old fellers.
Yeah.
He's not that old.
So we hit it off on the show, and we still remain pretty good friends.
Yeah.
So we kind of do stuff together, and we're pretty funny, like comical, like we feed off each other's energy, and he's a smart ass just like I am, and we like to tell jokes and prank each other and be mean to each other.
What's it called? What time is it? How do people find it?
It's True Grit Life, and Tom usually posts it on Facebook Live, and then if he sends me the link and I happen to remember, I post it myself on my social media and stuff. But you can find it on YouTube under True Grit Life.
True Grit Life. Okay.
Yeah, True Grit Life.
Cool. Yeah, because the two of you, I would think, would be very funny.
Yeah, and like I said, this Thursday, I'm just gonna be talking trash because he was supposed to come to my wedding. He sent me pictures of his plane ticket, his car rental, his hotel.
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm coming.
You just find out what happened.
Well, he said like a couple days before, he's like, I didn't know that Kentucky was on the quarantine. Like you have to quarantine when you come home for 2 weeks.
Oh.
And he's like, I didn't know that. And so he backed out because of that. So I hate Tom. I literally built him a bathroom and put his name on it. It said the Tom Laidlaw porch up there. And he didn't even show up. You know what I mean?
He did in spirit. I'm sure he was there in spirit.
Yeah, so I'm super mad at him. And basically, I'm just going to talk trash to him this Thursday. I'm going to tell him.
Okay, so if you want to hear Elaine get mad at Tom didn't show up her wedding, we can find that on Thursday.
Yeah.
But no, trash is really important. Trash is the stuff we make our lives out of.
Yeah.
And I think, we the things we throw away are the things that we use all the time.
Right.
And we, years to come, we'll be saying, what did I do with that wonderful bit of paper? You threw it away because it wasn't important. It isn't important, but that's the stuff.
Yeah.
Those things are with us all the time until we throw them away.
Well,
and we just assume there's going to be another one.
Yeah, my grandpa, he taught me a long time ago, you don't get rid of nothing because you never know where you might need it.
So I think your grandpa is wise.
Yeah, so I keep a little bit of everything, and it's like, yo, you never know when I might need these pack of bolts or this piece of wood or this.
Here's the
And let me tell you,
can you find it? So then 3 years later, when you need that, do you know where to find it?
Well, it's all about organization. You know what I mean? Like I have a huge garage, and so I organize it. And on the far end, any kind of piece of scrap wood, piece of board, piece of metal, whatever is in this section. bolts, screws, nuts, washers, this section. You know what I
Wonderful.
mean?
You know, if you're
So-
really organized, it works. But again, the people that I know like this, the problem is they accumulate all this, and a lot of it's really
Yeah.
good stuff. But then when they need it,
And
they
do-
don't know what the heck it is.
And do
Well,
you
that's
have them on
called a
shelves?
hoarder. That's called a hoarder. I'm not a hoarder.
If
But
it's
no,
organized,
Elaine-
it's not a hoard.
No,
Elaine,
but
do you
it's
have them on
smart.
shelves?
Well, my garage is super huge, and it's got like a bench that goes all the way around it.
Yes.
My grandpa built the garage when he was 72, and it's like a bunch of rough lumber. You know what I mean? Like you can actually see it. Part of it's underground. Can you see
Oh, yes.
that?
It looks like it's stable.
Well, it's huge. It's got my boat in it. It's got my trailers, my 4-wheelers, my razors, like every tool you can think of. But anyway,
You're a long way from the sea.
Yeah, I was going to say, where do you put the boat? Is there a lake nearby?
yeah, there's a small lake, Laurel Lake, not far from here. It's
All
like
right,
15
Tim
minutes.
and I are definitely coming next summer. We are inviting ourselves.
We're terribly excited. We're terribly excited.
But so my garage is huge, so there's a lot of storage, and with the things that I do, like just on a whim, building a bathroom and doing this, that, and the other. Like I kind of know what I'll use and what I won't, in a sense.
Mhm.
So it's like if I cut a piece of wood and I got 2 halves, I'll keep both. I won't throw them away. If I got some plywood, if I got some nuts, bolts, screws, whatever.
It's the
Some
right thing to
rough
do.
metal, I keep things like that because I'm constantly like building things and doing some redneck ingenuity and fixing this or redneck rigging that, and so I keep stuff like that around.
But you know what to do with it. Like I'm trying to. So I also, the difference is I live in a 2-bedroom condo, and I have realized that the best way to keep stuff tidy is to get rid of most of it.
Right.
So I am much more now, like, because I'm just thinking, like, there's this whole tray here of all this electronic stuff, and I'm always been the person who keeps that. Because what if you need that cord or that whatever? And I realize I moved 4 years ago. If I haven't used it in 4 years and it's still sitting in that bin,
Yeah.
I should. But even then, I know. And Tim's like, you do not throw it away.
Well, no, I keep stuff like that too. I actually have a bag. There's like a small section in the corner of on the bench where it's like stuff like that. It's like extension cords, plugins, like different stuff that I have no idea what it's for. But when I pick something up and I was like, oh, where's the plug for this? I always go there.
Right.
And look, you know what I mean? So
right. And I guess for me, like I said, if it's been 4 years, and especially now, the difference is 10 years ago, if you had some kind of an appliance and you lost a cord and it was a special kind of thing, you were screwed. Whereas now I've learned that even on those very occasional times that I do need the cord and I don't have it, you go on Amazon and you say, I need a cord for whatever this is.
Yeah.
And you send you one.
Sometimes very difficult.
Just easier to have it.
Yeah, so much easier to have it.
yeah.
And my problem is books, and I don't think of I've just not got my. We moved here about 4 years ago. I've still not arranged my books as I would like, or looked at them. It's
very hard to get through. I got rid of a bunch of books before I moved because in my old place we had like a big living room and like there was an entire wall of bookcases that were in there, before I moved in. So they were never full, but I was like, okay, I got a decent number of books. And then again, I thought about moving into this 2-bedroom condo, and I'm like, I got rid of like half of them, and I still had to buy more bookcases. But books are. So I'm trying to. Are you? Well, let's try with this, Tim. Tim, have you ever heard of Marie Kondo and Elaine?
What?
Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay,
No.
so she is like a not really like a lifestyle guru, but her thing is like cleaning up. And I guess she's Japanese, or she's certainly Asian in some. I'm really bad. I'm sorry. I know it's not the same being Chinese and Japanese and Korean, but I can't really like identify from the name what it is. But anyway, she's Asian. And her thing is, she says, rather than going through your stuff, she says, go through like each type of stuff. Like you go with your clothing and you go through your music and you go through your books and, whatever. And she says, you don't go for like, what do I want to get rid of? You take everything. Like if you do it right, and I'm not doing it to this example, like if you want to do your clothes, you take all your clothes from everywhere, right? And you dump it like on the middle of your bed. And then you pick up each thing and you ask yourself, does this bring me joy? No, not do I need it. Does this bring me joy? And if it does,
I would be naked.
That is the problem with it.
How would you do that with underwear? Does this bring me joy? No.
Well, it depends on where they ride.
Then.
It depends on where they ride, Tom. Tim, whether or not they bring you joy. You know what I mean? Like if it rides in the right spot, maybe it brings you a little too much joy. You might need to get rid of. What
I was going to say is it was pretty successful with clothes and other things, but the problem with books is that I wanted all the books. All of the books bring me joy.
Yeah.
So it works for me on certain things.
Well,
But anyway, but this is my current project, is like going through the condo and just trying to figure out what the heck I can get rid of. And Tim is like horrified.
I find I often don't teach something for 3 or 4 years at a time, and then suddenly somebody says, "Oh, can you teach this friend of mine every morning at 8 o'clock?" And in fact, I've just agreed to do this for somebody in Russia, and so every third morning I teach a subject, and I think, oh my goodness, I haven't taught that for 4 or 5 years, and I did manage to find my books, and I thought, excellent, I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
And it's like those 4 or 5 years haven't happened. It's you just pick it up immediately.
Right. So I will show this to my kids and tell them that it's Tim and Elaine's fault that my place is still full of so much stuff.
Sometimes I just can't. Sometimes I can't put my finger on a book, or I know that I wrote something in a particular book, and I think, where is that book? I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
And then I think, well, what did you write on there? And I have no idea, because why would I remember some things that I wrote down?
Yeah,
I just know where I wrote it.
Well, but see, now also, like all of this, like all my notes for all these shows and everything, now it's all, in my iPad. So I don't have to worry about losing it. But before that, I finally got rid of my college notes recently.
I still have everything in these little things.
I mean, we don't need to be hoarders. We don't need to be hoarders. Right. But just think about it. Be like, yo, can I use this later? Am I, you know what I mean? Like, I think it should be, I think keeping stuff is important because it saves you money in the long run sometimes.
Oh, yeah. If you could, like I said, as long as you can find it when you need it, because that's my problem.
Well, I live on a big piece of property, and I said, I got a garage. I got, places I store stuff.
I would build myself a library on your property. I'd be delighted.
That's true. That's true.
Everything would be there. It would be like the Ronald Reagan Library.
So we do have a few people who might still be hoping that we would get to this episode. Why don't we get back to it?
Let's continue.
So we get to this reward challenge for a picnic, and this is important because, Elaine, this is the first time. So they will do this challenge in different forms over and over again, where you blindfold everybody except one person. And,
I thought that was great.
It was hilarious. Yeah. The only thing is, when later seasons, they get much better about building a lot of like hazards right at like groin level. Yeah. Did you have? I don't remember, Elaine. Did they have?
No, we did. Yeah, we done that.
We
did had that challenge. Yeah, we ended up losing.
Yep.
Yeah. What sort of obstacles did you have?
We had these kind of the same thing. You pull a lever and bags fall down, and you had to untie the bags and take them back. But you had like obstacles that you had to go through to get there. Like over, under, climb through this or whatever.
Yeah.
Different stuff like that.
Yeah. And, seeing people get hit in the groin, just never gets old. I mean, that's one of those things where sometimes it's like, it's almost hard for me to watch because like people really, not this time, but in some of the later seasons, like it looks like that really hurts.
Yeah.
But it's fun,
Tommy, he got hit a couple times in the groin.
Yeah, now I remember. Now I remember. I thought
Tommy it was hilarious, but he didn't find it too interesting. So
yeah.
But I love the bit where the two groups could almost could almost sort of bump into each other.
Right.
Yeah.
I got to crap this about Survivor. Sometimes we talk about Survivor. It depends.
Jacob, we get sidetracked. We just lose all track.
It's my fault.
I mean, we talked about goat shit, and organization. I was calling Tim Tom because we was talking about Tom. It's like we got a lot going on.
Elaine, what's a Van Owl among friends?
So anyway, so this was fun, and like I said, this is one that I think they realized they had a winner because they do this over and over again. You got two people screaming over each other, and then you can't tell if who they're talking to. Oh, but the thing is that they're supposed to be getting a picnic, and so before that, when they're talking about, they get the tree mail, talking about a picnic, and like Amber's like about to have an orgasm talking about sandwiches, right? Okay, and then they get there, and what is the picnic? The picnic is Doritos and Mountain Dew. Yeah. And I checked this. It's not that they get that plus sandwiches. That is their picnic. So if you haven't eaten in, like 16 days and they tell you you're getting Doritos and Mountain Dew, how would you react to that? Because I'd be afraid to eat that.
I was stoked every time there was food involved in anything. I was super happy. And the thing is when you eat, it's like some people would just gorge themselves and
Right.
then they would be sick. Some
Right.
people would try to pace themselves and still get sick.
Mhm.
I just ate what I wanted and prayed. You know what I mean?
What is Mountain Dew?
Oh,
Okay, well, let's wait, before you tell him, what do you think Mountain Dew might be, Tim?
Well, I presume it's just water.
Nah,
It's soda. It's pop.
it's,
I know what-
it's
yeah,
a
but
soft drink.
it's a soft drink. And
It's
what is
their-
that? It's like lemon
their-
lime, right?
Yeah, they're terrible for you.
But it's got caffeine in it also,
Sugar,
right?
caffeine.
Thing.
Yeah, it's got 170 calories. This is where most of my weight comes from. Is this little green can.
Is that Mountain Dew?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what she's drinking.
Oh my
right
goodness, you're promoting the show at this moment.
now. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I'm a mountain. Listen, I quit drinking it before the wedding for 2 months. I didn't drink any. And now that the
wow.
wedding's over, it's like, yo, I don't have to do that no more.
Oh, you just had to make sure you fit into your suit, so you had to be good.
Yeah, well,
How was your suit?
she looked great.
I look sharp.
She looked great.
Tanya wanted me to wear a tie. I didn't agree with that, so I bumped the tie, and I just wore a collared shirt, a vest, and some slacks and my chucks.
Yeah.
You know,
She looked
I was
great.
kind of upset she wouldn't let me wear my hat. She did let me put it on at the reception a little later.
Right.
And then, you know, when I was looking through the pictures, I was like, I can't believe you didn't let me wear my hat. So then I started making her feel bad. And she's like, I'm sorry. But it was all right. You know, I never go without my hat. And so I took my hat off for it. And I was like, I would have felt better if I could have had it on. But if she didn't want me to have it, I wasn't going to do it. So,
Yeah, like you said, you know, you want happy wife, happy life, right?
yeah, exactly.
You learned that already.
Yeah, so I had quit the do. Now I'm back to doing the do.
Doing the do. And Jerry, also, speaking of knowing what production wants, that moment where they're talking about it, and the first thing Jerry says, do the do, baby, knowing that would make the show.
Yeah,
I didn't pick that one up at all. It's like
when she said do the do, that was there. Maybe it still is, for all I know. But I remember commercials for many, many years. It's do the do. That is their slogan.
Now, we couldn't do that in English, in British English, unfortunately.
Okay,
Because
what would it mean?
We'd have to say due, and it
due.
Yeah, and it would be the due is due. That would be the most we could do.
That's like a tongue twister there.
Yeah,
total tongue twister.
Or doggy do, I suppose. Sorry.
Yeah. No, so they do this, and Kucha just wins, you know, kind of by seconds. The other thing I saw is that they're doing it. They're blindfolded with the buffs, and I can just tell you those things. I mean, they block some light, but they do not. They're not real blackout. I'm not. I shouldn't tell you, Elaine, because I've used them sometimes, like to block the light when I'm sleeping.
Well, the way they do it now is, I don't know how they did it in season 2, but now they actually put a mask on you. And then you're buff over top of it.
Right. So now they got a real mess. Now they really can't see. But I was wondering
before.
They were just, well, I mean, maybe they did, but it looked like they were just wearing their buffs. And I was like, I'm wondering whether they can peek around the edges a little bit. So anyway, Kucha wins like literally by seconds. And there's a great shot of Amber, right, who just all she wanted was sandwiches. And she's sitting there. They're both running. So whoever gets the basket on that finished table first wins, right? And it was literally, it looked like it was like seconds away. And Amber's just holding that basket like right next to the table.
And they was on a losing streak, so it makes it that much
right,
worse.
Exactly. And they think they're going to finally get
so
food.
Close.
Yep. And then Kucha gets more food.
Yep.
And then the best thing was then Colby's reaction to this entire thing is to take a bucket of water and just throw it at Jerry.
I put down here nasty moment. And then Jerry says, thanks, I needed that. But they'd had such an unpleasant thing about the tomatoes earlier.
Right. Yeah. Right. And that could have been a funny moment, but I don't think it was. He wasn't trying to be funny. He was just pissed.
I think it was vicious. I think it was just vicious.
He was mad.
On the other hand, I mean, this is after how many days of him listening to her doing whatever. And like you said, because he is such like a Southern gentleman, he didn't say anything. Sorry, Tim?
And she was stealing his cooking job.
Right.
So,
well, that was Keith's job. But okay, so then we're going to they're getting ready to the immunity challenge. And again, so this is important, because it's 6-5 right now going into that final immunity. So we all know how this works. If Kucha wins, they're going to go in 6-4. And if that happens, then we know what's going to happen. There's going to be pagonging. They're just going to get Ogakor out one by one. Whereas if Ogakor wins, they'll go in 5-5, which big difference. So Colby says it's about to be an individual game. And then Jerry also really has so everybody else, like, we got to win. And Jerry's kind of like, I think if we lose, it'll give me an opportunity to kind of finagle my way to the other tribe and mess things up. And she said, if I'm going down, I'm going to wreak a little havoc on the way out. And so again, whatever you may think of Jerry, she knows how to play this game.
Yeah.
Yes,
back in season 2.
Tina doing the braiding of the hair at this moment.
Right.
She takes quiet control, and she takes quiet control in a few places in this episode. I think she's coming across as a very, very intelligent player.
Yep.
It's silent control which wins the day, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny you say that, because back in episode 1, I mean, I didn't want to flag it then because it would have been so obvious. But Tina does not speak in episode 1. Tina does not get one confessional.
I didn't know who she was.
Right. And they're still editing her in a very quiet way.
Yeah.
But like you said, she's
taking control. She's taking control of the entire tribe. Mm-hmm. And with Michael gone, I am on the right tribe, aren't I?
Well, no, it's the other tribe, but they're going to be merged next week anyway. So
but all the big characters in that tribe have already are sort of getting are disappearing. So Kel went, Marilyn went,
right.
Mitchell's gone. So it's really Colby and Tina that's left.
Right. Well, then Colby right now. So they've got Colby, Tina, Jerry, Amber.
And Keith isn't liked.
Keith. Right.
Yeah, and Jerry's irritating.
Right.
Amber, I still have no idea who she is really, except clearly she has hair for Tina to braid, and that's it. So it only leaves those two, and they're so strong as personalities. They're stronger than anything that Kucha can put up against them, except for Michael, and he's out this episode.
Right. Interesting.
And Jeff, who's emerging finally.
Right. I like Jeff from season 1 because he'll just sit there and just tell you exactly, like, he had a lot of good digs against Scoopin'. Like almost every episode he had something to say about Scoopin'.
Yeah,
but you're projecting on this what you know already, and I'm not. Jeff doesn't come across as somebody who's a character until today.
And I'd say for me, like, I love people who are good in confessionals, right? Even though we're not seeing a lot of him in the edit, and I agree with you, we don't see much of his gameplay. But when they take him aside and they put a camera in his face and tell him to make fun of the rest of his tribe, he's great at that.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that. I always do. So anyway. And the next thing we see is Cooch's at camp, and they're just hanging out. Somebody's fishing. Somebody's taking a nap. And then we hear the scream. Yes.
Did you notice right at the beginning of the episode?
Yeah.
You've got Michael Scoochin saying he talks about safety. Did you notice that?
What was the exact quote? I did know at the beginning that he was talking about the importance of this episode.
Safety-wise, shelter-wise, safety-wise, he talks about safety.
I had to know. I guess he was enjoying. He was enjoying it. He was living off the land. He's having
and then how much he's changed over 16 days. I thought, this is setting this up very nicely. This next one we're coming to. I thought, interesting. But
I don't know that anybody was expecting what happens next. And so, like, both of you, Elaine, you first. What do you think? I mean, should they have filmed this? I mean,
I thought it was great TV. I thought it when I watched it 20 years ago, and I still think it really shows, like, how vulnerable you are. You know what I mean? Like, everybody tends to think that because you're being filmed that they give you things that you're, kind of babied. Maybe they do this for you, that for you. And the truth is that they don't. So it showed the realness of it. And, that you are actually in danger at sometimes, like I almost got bit in the face by a shark. And
Oh, wow.
if the shark would have bit me, you think the producers could have stopped it? You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Well, that was the thing. I was reading some of the press, and there were a lot of people saying, like, they shouldn't have been filming. They should have been helping him. And then production did come back, and they did make the point there were a lot of people around. And if it was
But we didn't see him fall in the fire, did we?
right when he falls, no, we don't. Right, we do not see that one moment. Right, like I said, we hear the scream, and then very quickly a cameraman comes running.
yeah.
But a lot of people, again, and this is in 2001, I don't think in 2020 kind of anybody would think twice about all the other things that have happened on reality TV. But back in 2001, a lot of people were very, very upset that they filmed it, and especially then that they decided to show it. So like, Elaine, if you had gotten hurt, and you understand they're making a TV show, so I think I'm just not to put words in your mouth, I think you probably would have been okay with it. But like, would you have had any idea that maybe they shouldn't have shown it?
Honestly, like unless okay, like when you get burned, like unless it's in your lungs.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're just surface on your skin, like it was his hands.
Right.
Like to me, like it's not like dire.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He wasn't going to die.
Yeah,
right?
He wasn't going to die. Whereas
although it turns out it was a little bit more dangerous than I might have thought, because I have to give a plug here for my friend Karen Katz, who is a nurse. She recently retired oncology nurse at Johns Hopkins, so she knows what she's talking about. And I was asking her about this, and especially like we saw them, they came running and they gave him kind of an inhaler. Mm-hmm. And she said that was probably also because he did get a face full of smoke. And it doesn't seem that this happened, but he could have had real wet swelling also like in his lungs.
Oh, okay.
That this actually was more dangerous than because I wouldn't have known.
So what I was saying is like if I'm filming and I see something happen, like somebody cut a finger or twist an ankle or whatever, like if I just got common sense, it's like, yo, if they cut themselves, they can hold this, hold that, unless it's severe, like
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I think I would have filmed it. Mm-hmm. Unless I knew it was a situation that was like, holy shit, they need help. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
And even when they did, like in that later season with Caleb, where he almost died from dehydration, even then they kept filming. But again, they were filming, but they were also, it's clear that they called somebody and they came running with the medical kit. So again, I don't have a problem with it. But
no, so I just think that if you're filming something and you can what's it called? You assess the situation. Mm-hmm. If the situation calls for you to set your damn camera down, then set your damn camera down. Right. You know what I mean? But if the situation is like you can step back a bit, it's not going to cause somebody a fatality or whatever.
Right. Somebody else is coming to help.
Then it's like the show must go on.
But I think that's what Scoopin said. I think is that, because he was interviewed by many, many people at the time. Mm-hmm. And he said if it was just me and a cameraman, I think that they would have helped me, but there were all these other people around and they called medical and, he had no problem with the fact that
and when you go on these reality shows, they make you sign your life away and you basically say, if I die, I'm okay.
Right.
As long as I get to be on this show. Mm-hmm. So you're agreeing to that situation. So to actually sign that paperwork and then go and be somebody that would bitch and complain about how they responded, you knew what you was walking into.
What do you think, Tim? Because I think Tim is a little bit less sanguine about what he thinks of production.
I don't really mind what you say about what you've been saying. What I'm more concerned about is the intrusive, invasive, divulgent nature of the beast itself. Should we be filming this sort of thing for entertainment, or should we be showing it? So I think probably there is an argument for saying that if you're a cameraman or camera woman and you're filming, your job is to film. Mm-hmm. Somebody else's job is to look after. And I've often thought, what would happen if somebody had a medical emergency in front of me and I were operating a camera? Unless I was really sure that I knew what to do, I'd probably be better off calling a professional than messing around.
No, but you seem to be one of those guys, though. If you thought you could help and do something,
I would help.
You would just help. Right. And see, I'm the same way too. It's like if I feel like they need me, I would totally be there and forget whatever it was I was doing.
But simply downing your tools because you want to faff around actually is not helping, and you may actually be of more help to continue filming, and then at least you can record what happened.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm not sure that information that you've recorded should then necessarily be used as part of the entertainment. Now, I don't think that was really the question you were looking at.
Yeah.
And that, I think, I was trying a few seconds ago. I was trying to work out what's a word we're looking at. The word which was initially in my mind was voyeuristic, which is not the correct word. Conspicuous, possibly, is the right word. You go on this show, and you are visible. You are clearly visible. You are obvious, and you are not hidden. However, it's a little bit like I can't remember what was the name of the philosopher that talks about the panopticon. You know, there were these prisons where you had a sort of the prison warder sat in this tower in the center and could see all the way around, and it's called a panopticon. And in a way, you're in a panopticon. You are sort of a human guinea pig, being observed 24 hours a day from from every possible position.
Right.
But the point is that you are being controlled by a producer, and you are the property of that producer, exactly as you said. So it's not for your benefit. It's for the benefit of the production.
No, it is, but that's the nature of the beast of TV.
Right.
Well, I think so, but what I worry about is that it produces a sort of it's a cannibalistic thrill which is given to the audience, and the more they get of this,
you become desensitized. You can become desensitized.
I think it's more than being desensitized. I think you're sensitized in a different way. So actually, you know, chocolate takes on an entirely different meaning. That's the point. And what do we remember from this episode? What I remember is not the burning, because we didn't see very much of that actually. So in that sense, in a way, you could argue we should have seen more, because that should have been the centerpiece of the episode. For me, this episode is dominated by chocolate.
And for me, it went on plenty long enough. Again, I'm not saying they shouldn't have shown it, but to me, it was hard to watch. It really was hard to watch. And for me, again,
we didn't see anything.
We saw. I mean, the shot of the skin falling off of his hands.
My video probably isn't good enough to be able to see that, so I didn't see that.
Yeah, no, it basically looked like the skin was literally peeling off of his hands like a glove. You want to go deal with the doggies? So, and then they had this whole long speech, you know, of Elizabeth, and and they bring him out, and everybody is crying, and but it was a very real scene, and I do think, and I do think they were shell shocked. I mean, that's got to be, again, somebody that you know and that you've been living with.
Absolutely.
And I would also hope, I mean, again, that if he really wasn't okay, like I should have looked this up, but I didn't. In France, I think it was French Survivor. Somebody did, or maybe it wasn't even Survivor, but I know somebody had a fatal heart attack, and that was in like the first season, first challenge. Not a U.S. Survivor. I think it was a French, or it might even have been French Survivor. It was a long time ago, and that was just the end of the season. That might have even been the end of the franchise. I mean, if anybody ever dies, I think they would look at this differently. But as bad as it looked,
people have died as a result of reality TV. It hasn't stopped the medium, and it often hasn't stopped the programs.
Right. Like I said, so in this case, because he was okay, and he was surprisingly okay. Although there was another thing with this edit that was so weird. So we see Ogakor finding out, what happened, and Jerry was upset, and then people got upset with Jerry again. To the extent that people get upset with Jerry, they said that she was like pretending to be sad, right, when she got the tree mail that there was a problem and there isn't going to be a challenge. What did you want her to do? Right? They don't know what happened, but she certainly looked plenty sad to me. But again, it was just something else that people used to kind of pile on Jerry because she wasn't sufficiently sad.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. I don't know how you react to this, because the point is, Michael was in the opposite tribe.
Right. They didn't know what happened. All they just got this note saying there was a problem. Somebody got medevaced.
They'd met him, and what happened to him could have happened to any one of them. So I think simply from a point of view of sort of empathy, it's very easy to be empathetic. It's very easy to be upset about what happened to him, because you know, whether you know him, whether you don't know him, whether you like him, whether you don't like him, his experience is very close to yours.
Right.
And I would have thought this was a very traumatic experience for everyone.
But then the way that they edited also at the very end, you know, normally, so they showed the, you know, there weren't buddy votes, but normally they'd be showing the votes over these last words. And they didn't get an update from Scoop. And I mean, they weren't going to do it that night, obviously, but they could have gone back to him at some point and said, you know, hey guys, you know, and they've done this, and this is what they've done in the past, like where people have been medevaced at the end. I think they did that with Caleb. It's like, hey, I'm fine, you know, nothing to worry, you know. They didn't do that with Scoop
beforehand, didn't they?
Right. Yeah, but I'm saying, but they didn't do this with this. They treated it like Scoopin died.
Yeah,
which I thought was just a weird way to deal with it.
Had they already decided that he was not a nice chappy by that point, by the time it aired, or not?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I mean, we've certainly seen him being kind of questionable.
I would have gone to his home and or even better still, gone to his hospital bed and done a
exactly, and just have a shot of him. Yeah, so just so when people do know, I mean, he was seriously.
Was there not an outcry at the time when this was aired?
Oh, there was. There was a huge, like I said, people saying it shouldn't have been filmed, it shouldn't have been shown. This is why the genre needs to end.
Saying, is he all right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, he did do the press, right? So after you get voted out, the next day you do press with all these different outlets. And he did do that, right? And then they got the whole story. But at the end of the episode, they could have given people something. And especially, this is 2001. It's not like everybody's reading the internet. So I don't know how many people even knew. So basically, he did get burned. They took him to the local hospital. They took one look at his hands. They said, yeah, we can't help him. They put him on a private plane to a burn unit in Brisbane. Where he spent 10 days, but he is now fine. This is also just an interesting fact about Scoopin as a person. He did not tell his family what happened. He just, because he was only in hospital for 10 days, and I don't know where they kept him, but you know, he flew home with the rest of the cast. He did not tell his family anything about this. So by the time he went home, even after 3 weeks later, his hands apparently were red. But he could use them. You know, he did heal very quickly. It was not a third-degree burn, even though it looked like it. He did not lose any of his sensation. He was able to use his hands pretty much normally. But can you just imagine sitting on next to your husband on the couch, watching his Survivor episode, right? And then suddenly he falls into the fire?
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
it's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what kind of person doesn't bother to tell their family. Yeah, by the way, you're going to see something that's a little bit disturbing in about 45 minutes.
Is he the only person from Survivor who is left and not been voted out?
Oh no, there have been other medevacs.
All right,
Elaine, Elaine, we can't hear you anymore. I see you, but I can't hear you. So is your mic on? Is it possible you muted? No,
I can't hear you.
Elaine? Still can't hear Elaine.
No.
Elaine, do you want to bop out and bop back in? Yeah. Okay.
No, you're still inaudible.
No, I'm going to kick you and then just come back in. Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry.
So he's fine.
You've got such an interesting background here.
Yeah, this is actually a Big Brother background, and I don't know why it's suddenly showing up now.
Really? How fascinating.
Yeah. But we were pretty much done. I hope she will come back.
I hope so too.
But anyway, so Scoopin was fine. He flew out with everybody else. Oh, but you asked if any other people have not been voted out. Yes, it has happened a number of times to the extent that, here she is. Oh, back. Hi, can we hear you now? Still can't hear you. Still can't hear you. All right, you want to play with that? I'm just going to keep talking. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get you back. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, Scoopin was fine, but you know, now it means that we go into the merge 5-5, right? And suddenly now we have a game.
Yeah, which is suddenly much better than last time.
Right, because if Kucha had won, and again, there's no way to know, but Kucha won almost everything up until this point. Right.
Yes.
I assume there's a decent chance that they would have won this challenge too, whatever it was.
Well, they were prepping for it, weren't they?
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going back in circles again. There have been several other people, to the extent that there have been 3 people. So this was episode 6.
Yeah.
In future seasons, and again, you're not going to remember this, so I don't have to. It does not happen anytime soon. But in much later seasons, there are 2 other people who have also been medevaced in episode 6. And as a result, they made a season, Survivor Philippines, which was the 26th season. Can we hear you now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we got you. Now we got you back. So
Dude.
So Tim had asked whether Skupin was the only person to ever leave Survivor without being voted out. And I was just telling him, no, there have been other medevaced, to the extent that there have been 2 other people who have been medevaced out of episode 6, right? Russell Swan and Jonathan Penner on episode 6. They didn't fall in the fire. So what they did is they made a season called Survivor Philippines. So this is the 26th season. So this aired 7 or 8 years ago, where they had 3 tribes, and each of them it was them plus a bunch of newbies to kind of give them another chance, because these were 3 people, all who had been big characters, right? And then they got hurt, and so they wanted to give them another chance.
Yeah.
So it does happen. It doesn't happen all that often. They're generally pretty good about keeping people safe. Although, again, Elaine, also in Elaine's season, Elaine was there for one of the hardest medevacs, I think, right? With Pat on the boat.
Oh, that was Nick Wilson's season.
That's right. I'm sorry. Never mind.
Yeah, that was Nick Wilson. He was actually going home. And Pat got a medevac, so Nick stayed in the game, and he ended up winning.
I clearly need more caffeine. It's not the same season, right? But it was
it's because we're both from Kentucky. That's what it is.
Episode 1, somebody who was really very, very popular, and then they drive them around on boats in Fiji, to get between all the islands. And there was a boat in a storm, and he hurt his back, and they had to take him out. So, and he has not been back yet, but I certainly hope he will be, and I think he probably will be, because he was so great in his 1 episode, and especially and he got hurt through no fault of his own. So often in cases like that, they try to bring people back, but there's no guarantee, and some people do just get medevaced and we never see them again.
Yeah.
So anything else, Elaine, on this episode?
No, I'm sorry. The postman had came to bring a package,
and that's why the dogs were all.
The little dog was out, and she likes to chase cars, and she's small. So I was trying to get her, and I couldn't. So I had to holler at Hunter to run. She went all the way down the road. I had to make Hunter go down the road and get her.
This is your wife's little dog, right?
I would be divorced if something happened to that
dog.
Yeah. Like, seriously.
Yeah, I know you love all your dogs, but that dog
I had
is
muted it. I had muted it because I was.
That's what I figured, and then you had to
unmute. I didn't know how to unmute it because I pushed the button. It just didn't work. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I can't unmute you. You got to do that by yourself.
Yeah, so I apologize.
It's fine. It's fine. That happens.
I thought the post-credit bit, which where Michael talks to camera, but obviously it was filmed before his accident.
Right. Like I said, I don't know why. Like I said, it would be very easy. Like I said, when he's in the hospital in Australia, I assume there's somebody there with him or whatever.
But what he says is relevant. I can see why it made the edit.
Oh yeah.
Winning is an anticlimax, and that playing the game is the thing.
Right.
And it's very much sort of thing you find where I am. Play up and play the game. One of these sort of things which seems to come out of rugby school.
Right.
It's the game. The playing is an important thing. Play the game. Winning is not as important.
But he really did enjoy, it seemed, that opportunity, and I'm glad. Like I said, it took him long enough, but they finally did.
Don't you think it was ironic that the person who goes on and on about how brilliant he is at sort of survival and these things ends up falling into the fire? Don't you think that's sort of slightly ironic?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
The person who
it changes the whole rest of the season, because going into the next episode, they're merging. So Kucha would have been up 6, and now they're tied.
But
it changes the whole dynamic. Of the game.
It might save the season, because if it had been Kucha 6-4, then it just would have been a pagonging. And
equally, I was trying to work out last week how on earth we'd get through to the finals without Michael winning.
Yeah.
Interesting, just because of the edit that he gotten. Yeah.
And I he wasn't my favorite person. and I'm trying very hard not to think of all the things I've been told about his subsequent life. But it just, it does sort of solve a problem, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I said, the things that I was saying about him earlier in the season, I would not have been quite as brutal if I didn't know what happened after. And like I said, maybe that's not fair.
And this to me leaves only 3 people in the running: 1 girl and 2 boys.
Who else is still in the running for you? You said Tina, Colby, and who else?
Tina, Colby, and I think Jeff is a possibility.
Okay.
But I had earlier completely dismissed everybody from Kucha.
It looked like that they were likely to go in 6-4.
It would have been totally different.
Yeah.
You think Kucha would have won this?
Well, someone from Kucha.
Yeah, right. It doesn't have to be Michael, but if you go in 6-4, right, you got to be pretty dumb to not end up with all Kucha at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, they showed people how to do it, last season. This is not rocket science. If we got 6 and they got 4, then screw, who cares who's good at the game?
Would production go out of their way to make sure that didn't work? That didn't happen because.
Well, they have future seasons that go just like that. And
really? And they can't do anything to stop it?
No. I mean, because they can't, they don't have a hand in the game. You know what I mean?
Well, what they do is they do try to mix it up. So, there will be other twists that they will throw into the game pretty certain.
Well, I think that's where a lot of the tribe swapping comes in later on.
That's what I was going to say.
Years past.
Yeah.
It's because if they mix the tribes up, then maybe that people wouldn't stick to those original alliances.
Right. So, Tim, a tribe swap is before the merge. You still have 2 tribes, but you reshuffle the people. So that by the time you get to the merge, people have friends, on their original tribe, but then you also have friends on your merge tribe. Yeah. Right. And so and they did that, I think.
I think they've done it because of that.
Yeah, because otherwise it makes perfect sense. It makes boring TV. But as somebody playing, it's the thing that's happened on this current season of Big Brother. It's boring as hell because there were 6 people who were just running the game from the beginning.
Yeah.
And guess what? We got down to 7 people with all 6 of those people still in the game.
Yeah. So, well,
anyway,
it makes for better TV when they shuffle it around.
Exactly. So, that's what they do. But even then, there are still certain seasons that unfortunately there's a certain point where you're just watching and saying, for the next 3 episodes, I know exactly what's going to happen. And it's unfortunate, but it happens. Okay. So anything else you wanted to say about this episode, Tim? Or are we ready to?
I'm just wondering. Colby. Colby constantly complaining about the girls.
Yes. But I think he means Jerry mostly, and then maybe also.
Yeah, I think he does. And the Hershey bar bit.
Yeah. When he's talking about the girls, he's not talking about Tina. I don't think.
And Jeff's line about every man for himself. I think it's rather sexist, but it's something that I keep coming back to. I don't know whether I like it. It's very gripping. I mean, I'm still watching, aren't I?
Yeah. And I think that's.
I'm watching with a lot more attention than I think I did originally.
Right, but it's clear that, like I said, we're 6 episodes in, and you know what to look for, right? And you can just look at these people and say,
I think I know who the winners must be. There isn't any choice. To me, it's as clear to me now. As it was when I was in the circle. I have that feeling.
But let's put it this way, though, that if Scoopin hadn't fallen in the fire and it was 6-4, I understand why you're saying what you're saying about Tina and Colby. But nothing's impossible if you really know how to work people.
Well, if Michael had not fallen in the fire, then I think it would be probably down to Michael and Jeff. But with Michael falling in the fire, I think if Olga are clever, they will take Jeff out at the next vote.
Okay, why? Why Jeff?
Because he's potentially, I think, the strongest character left in Kucha.
We'll have to wait and see what
We'll
happens.
have to see
So
next week.
is Jeff your
He's
math
just trying
next?
to get info out of you. Don't listen.
Have I worked it out? I think I might have worked it out. Yeah. Okay.
We'll see next week because it is the merge. They're going in 5-5, and
Right.
it's kind of and that's the great thing about the merge. At that point, it's kind of like it's a
you
game.
see, if I were in Ogre Corps, Kim is gone, Michael's now gone, Alicia, Roger, Elizabeth, Nick, I might try and take out. I like Nick, but I don't think he's a winner. That's my.
These are good observations.
Yep.
Has Deb gone, or is she still there?
No, Deb went first.
Deb has gone. Yes, there we
Remember,
are.
she was engaged to her stepson. We talked about.
Alicia is still there, isn't she? Alicia is still there.
Alicia's still there. Yeah.
She's so non-present.
Except when she's yelling at Kimmy. We talked about that last week. That was fun.
Without Kimmy, she just isn't. I just don't notice her. I didn't notice her today.
You're right. Without foil to fight it with, we don't see her much.
No.
And I wouldn't bother taking out Roger. So it has to be Jeff. You have to be bringing in Jeff next week.
We'll see.
I'm going to watch this program with great entertainment. I'm very excited. Gosh, and of course we're doing this live, so I can't take back what I've just said. Right. Okay.
So
okay. This is like a. There was a scene in The Circle where I was quite convinced that somebody was somebody else, and I sort of knew it, and then I thought I'm being so gung ho about this. I'm going to have to eat humble pie afterwards.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm going to have to get an entire dish of humble pie ready for next week.
Right.
Well, and
by the time we are here actually recording it, actually about to record it, I will have watched the episode and I will know. So of course I will come to you very shamefaced.
You'll even know a few hours before, because when I start publicizing the show, I will say who the guest is. And for this one, I might even start a little bit earlier. You might want to mute me. Just for the
I won't mute you because I will see. I watch. We film our thing at 5 o'clock. I tend to watch about midday.
Okay. All right. So Tim, just tell everybody where people can find you on social media.
Oh, I'm ubiquitous. I think at the moment I'm I'm everywhere. No, I'm not. I'm in a very, very small little patch. My little patch of heaven, which is called Zontul Films Limited. ZONTUL FILMS LTD.
And that's on YouTube.
On YouTube, and then on Instagram. I need more followers on Instagram. I think I'm dying. I don't know what's happened to me. But on Instagram I'm under Professor_Tim_Wilson, and on Twitter I'm Prof_Tim_Wilson.
And on all of them, and also on Facebook. I will just tell everybody they're all slightly different. If you search for Professor Tim Wilson, he will come up because I do this every week.
Yeah, there is another Professor Tim Wilson. He runs the museum in Oxford, which is rather entertaining. And in fact, I have met him. And there's another Tim Wilson politician who's a very interesting Australian politician. We've communicated, which is rather entertaining too.
So we have to put together a show with 3 Tim Wilsons.
I think that would be the thing, wouldn't it? Just
that would be confusing. It'd be like, hey,
have a trinity of Tim Wilsons.
Yeah.
And we've sort of identified who they would be anyway. And 2 of us are called Professor, and one of us is aiming to become Prime Minister, I think. So. That would be a very interesting show, wouldn't it?
So we'll see if we can make that. Yeah, I'll try to figure out how I would moderate that. That'd be fun.
I have no idea how you do that.
All right, Elaine, what about you? Tell people where they can find you.
Let's see. You can look me up on Instagram at Elaine Stott 32 or Twitter. It's the same for both. I got a fan page. You can holler at me on my fan page. That's about it. I'm not on anywhere else, I don't think. So.
All right, cool. All right. And so just for coming up on Survivor NSFW, last night, Johnny et al. Talked to Ronnie Talbot I did not make that show, unfortunately, because it was way past my bedtime, but that should be up by now. On Thursday, we're going to be talking to Ovi Kabir. And that's going to be later, I think, than our regular time. So just watch Twitter for that. And then next Monday, also late. So again, watch Twitter for details. But we are going to be joined by Nicole Anthony, who was on this current season of Big Brother. And that'll be fun. I'm very, very excited to meet her. Haven't talked to her before. And then next week, as I already spoiled, Tim and I are going to be joined by the person who got voted out to talk about not only this season, but all the other things that have happened to them on Survivor. This is going to be a big one.
I must say, it was very, very exciting meeting Kimmy under those circumstances. I felt quite sort of starstruck to sort of feel I'd just seen her exit, and there she was in front of me. But all these years had intervened. It was really like time travel.
Yeah.
Right, and it'll be the same thing next week because
so for me, it's just
the same person, and in many ways they have changed because people change in 19 years. So it'll be fun.
Kimmy's great though. I've had a few conversations with Kimmy. She's good people. I love Kimmy.
She's great. She's great.
Yes.
And we're really enjoying, when we can, we're gonna, with Johnny's connections and a few of my connections, it's always fun if we can make that happen. So we all hope that you will all please stay healthy, stay safe, be careful, so that you can join us next week at noon Eastern, 5 p.m. GMT on Survivor NSFW Rewind. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.